guys, welcome back to part 1 of 4 for Inside the Exit around preparing your company to sell. So this is going to be a 4-part series because when you're preparing your company, there's a lot of stuff that you need to do. But we're going to talk about 4 main categories that pretty much all companies need to focus on, pay attention to, be aware of, because these are 4 main categories buyers are going to be looking at regardless of who you are, okay? But every company is a little bit different. So depending on who you are, reach out to us because there's often specific additional things that you'll need to focus on related to your specific company. So we're going to keep this as general as we can so that it applies to as many folks as possible, but we'll try to get as granular and specific as possible as well at the same time. It's kind of a jumbo shrimp. I realize it's an oxymoron. So with that being said, let's dig into category 1 of preparing your company to sell, and that is looking at your employees and specifically the management team. So when you're selling your company, sometimes you're selling your company and you and the management team are all going to stay in place. Other times you're going to be selling the company and you want to exit stage left, or maybe you and the partners or some of the management team want to exit stage left. And so you do need to think about, as you exit, what do you want, or what are the other partners, or what do the management team wants? For example, if you've got a CFO or a COO that's 67 years old and he goes, look, Drew, I'm really at the end of my line here. I think I want to retire in the next year. That's somebody you need to think about replacing or beginning to replace. Versus, if all of you are staying on board and you got plenty of life left in you from a career perspective, So thinking through, who is the management team that you currently have in place? So let's start at the top. Let's look at the executive team. Most people, when they buy a company, they want the management team to be there. The management team is who has the relationships with the customers. You're the ones that understand how the business works, the nuance of your specific company, the inner workings, the financials, all the stuff that goes on to your company being successful. The management team is often key to that. And so one of the things is that key man risk is really important from a lot of buyers' perspective. So they're going to look at, okay, if people walk away, what proprietary knowledge do they walk away with, or what customer relationships do they walk away with? So as you look at your management team, begin to think about who holds the key relationships or the key knowledge that's specific to my business, okay? And are those people staying? If they are, great, that's great. But if they're not, how can I distribute that information ahead of time, or those relationships, hand those off so that there's not the key man risk if one people or yourself or other people leave, that risk is that those relationships are going to leave with you. So again, that's something to think about.
When it comes to your employees, there's no sale process that's not going to inquire about who do you have working for you. Are they good? Are they bad? How long have they been with you? What are their responsibilities? What more responsibilities might they? We get that all the time. Can they step up to a higher position at this point? If you're going to go and leave the company, is there someone that can fill your shoes? Is there someone you already have working for? All these things are things that you've got to prepare in advance. And if you don't have anybody there when you go and leave the company, then you better start thinking about how to bring somebody in that might be able to do that. You might say, well, the new buyers will do it. Yes, that's true, but that takes the universe of buyers down to someone that is prepared to bring that in, as opposed to you already have it.
Or it means the valuation might be impacted because somebody's got to pay to bring those people in. Exactly. So you might want X amount for your company, but if they've got to spend Y to hire people to replace that are leaving, then it's going to impact your valuation.
Very important.
So as you're looking at the management team, if you don't have management in place or key people are leaving, it doesn't mean you can't sell your company. Again, there's reasons and there's ways that you can sell it. Say you're selling it to a strategic. They might have a lot of internal infrastructure in place that can absorb some of the operations of your company, okay? It also means that some things might be duplicated, so they might need to find new positions for certain people you currently have in those types of situations. But especially if you're wanting to sell your company as a standalone, as a platform, as a lot of people in the financial industry talk about, if you want your company to be able to exist by itself without having to be sold to a strategic and continue to operate as it is today, having the management team in place and the people or the bench strength to continue to run and own the relationships and to have the knowledge, proprietary knowledge of how your company specifically works, you got to really pay attention to that management team. So focusing again on the C-suite, ask yourself, who owns the relationships? Who owns the knowledge? How can we distribute that as much as possible so that there's not a key man risk? Look, even if you're not selling your company today, but you're just starting to think about it, this is important because if you own all the relationships, if you get hit by a bus tomorrow and you want your spouse that might not work in the business to be taken care of, you need to have that knowledge of how your business runs or those customer relationships held with other people at the end of the day so that your spouse can continue to be supported by your business. So, again, there's a lot of reasons you might want to do this, even if it's not just for sale, but if your company's for sale. But beginning to think about the management team. Do you have the people in place to be able to do the things for your business to continue to be successful? The other thing to think about is capacity. And we're going to talk a little bit in another video about, equipment and internal capacity of your company itself. But think about the capacity of your employees. Employees as people, we're able to do a lot. And oftentimes we're able to do more than we think we're able to do, or sometimes we want to do. But do think about what's the capacity of the people that you have? Is there additional work or business or customers that they could handle or do, things they could do in addition to what they're currently doing that could maybe expand the value so that if another buyer comes in, they can get more out of the people that you have? So it's something to think about. But
yeah, who can step up to more responsibilities, more opportunities? That's very, very good. You've trained them, they've brought them along, and they're going to be able to. That's an important part of the sale process. Every buyer wants to know who those stars in the making are, and that's something that you don't want to do. The other thing, it's kind of an ancillary a little bit when you go to sell your company. You may have somebody that's working for you that's incredibly knowledgeable, incredibly well spoken, knows the business very well. That enhances the sale process. So it's not just you meeting with potential buyers, but it's you and maybe that person, maybe he's your COO or CEO or whatever, to include him in the process as to what's going on. Now, maybe you might want to give him a bonus, maybe you don't. That's up to you how you want to do it. But there's nothing wrong with including somebody, because any buyer is going to be looking at that person that's running the day-to-day when you leave. So them being part of the process and them seeing how smart and good and well knowledgeable and extremely experienced in your business adds a lot of value to your company.
Absolutely. So let's dig another level deeper. Let's talk about, do you have the right people in the right seat on the bus? So we've all got employees, we've got people working for us. Sometimes they're not in the right seat on the bus. So sometimes we might need to spend some time looking at your organization, or you might, and figure out, do I have people where they need to be able to work most efficiently? Do I have duplications or redundancies in my company that are not needed? And could I be more efficient from how we operate? Taking the time ahead of time to clean up some of this stuff can really add a lot of value to a potential buyer at the end of the day and make your company more attractive. The other thing is talking about those employees that you're holding on to. Look, a lot of companies, and look, as a business owner, I've done this personally. I know a lot of people have done this. We've got employees that we've kept longer than we needed to. They're people we might should have let go a long time ago. Or maybe it's family members that aren't actually doing anything, but they're on the payroll, and they're really just going to drag down your numbers, or they're going to drag down the morale of the business or division or the organization. If you have people in your company that are a drain on your company emotionally or financially, think about going ahead and taking care of those ahead of time. Now, there are certain situations where you might need or want somebody else to be the bad guy. But I will tell you, if you kick that can down the road and you make a buyer deal with that, sometimes that can have a negative impact, again, on your valuation or the sale process itself. So as you think about your company, we're going to talk about cleaning up the numbers. Sometimes you need to clean up your employees or your management team or your structure of how people are organized in your organization. Every company's different. It would take somebody like us or another advisor to come in and really look at it with you, which we're more than happy to do. But begin thinking about, do you have the right people in the right seat on the bus, or are there people that you need to let go of or move around?
Yeah, we've been asked, and an ancillary of that might be a family member that's also in the company. I mean, these lower middle market companies often have someone else that's in the company that is a relative of some sort, be it a daughter, a son, cousin. It doesn't matter. There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
Okay? Let's get something straight. There's nothing wrong with that. But if that person's a real go-getter and a tremendous asset to the business, you need to state that. You need to tell them that. If it's just someone that's on the payroll that does nothing and never comes in, then that goes back to what Drew was just talked about. But also, just because they're a member of your family or something like that, plenty of companies get sold where the buyer is extremely happy that someone's in there like that, because they have the continuity that you might need if you want to go or the seller wants to go and retire to Florida or wherever. So keep that in mind as you go forward on that. Also keep in mind that person might be very nervous about something and will probably be one of the first people to pick up something's up if you're thinking about selling your company. Just words of wisdom there, perhaps, that they know you intimately, and if you're thinking about a sale process and there's a family member in the company, that's something you got to be handled delicately.
Absolutely. So when you're thinking about preparing your company, again, this is video 1 of 4, so check out the other 4 as well, but the first one's all about employees, management team. Do you have the people that you need in place? If you are or other people are exiting, what's it going to take for somebody to fill those, either the role that person was playing, or that knowledge base, or those customer relationships? And then think about, too, do you have the right people in the right seat on the bus, or are there things that you need to take care of to clean up your own house? So with that being said, hopefully this was helpful. Check out our other videos. Thank you for watching this edition of Inside the Exit. Please hit subscribe. Check out the show notes as well for our contact information if you've got other questions and you want to talk to us. Thanks again.
Look forward.
Bye.
Bye.